Oh shit!
Oh, you know what? I got to stream that.
How are you guys doing? We're live.
Let's go.
Doing well.
Ready but not ready.
We are sometimes ready, sometimes less ready. But yeah, we are kind of on time. How are you guys doing? I think Brandon, you suggested even some topics, which was really fun. I think the Boris Johnson one was the most fun for me that you put in there.
Yeah. What's Boris's deal?
Who?
I never pegged him as a Bitcoiner, but
no, yeah. I mean, it's just classic clown world, right? I mean, just look at Stanley Druckenmiller, same thing. Like he's again, you throw him in the Luke Gromen camp. These guys are, Luke's a trader. I mean, that's the whole promise of Bitcoin, though, is you don't have to be Luke Gromen. You don't have to be a trader, right? You don't have to be watching charts all day long and doing this as your literal day job. And doing this, you should just be able to be a McDonald's worker or a doctor or a lawyer or digging ditches or whatever you want to be in between, and saving hard money that doesn't steal from you, doesn't rob you through inflation. So that's the promise of Bitcoin. Nothing has changed. The properties haven't changed in Bitcoin, but the people change. Stanley Druckenmiller changes his mind for whatever reason. And I think Rajat and I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but you're like, why do you change your reason? What are the reasonings behind that? That's what fascinates me. Like why and how, the incentives of what made you change, and do you even understand in the first place? But the things that come out of their mouth of like, well, we never needed a store of value. That's the reason that you told us you got into it 6 or 7 years ago. Like, what do you mean? Have you seen $1 billion? Someone worth $1 billion $cuck. He's telling us we don't need a store of value. It's like, do you understand how the system works? Do you understand what these government currencies are? It makes you start invalidating and now having to go back and look at everything the guy's ever said with a lot of these people, or with anyone who doesn't really get Bitcoin or sound money or what's happening. And then you're like, I can't really trust you on pretty much everything else. Like I now have to really start double checking everything you're saying because you've now broken that trust because you clearly don't understand what's going on. So whether it's Boris, a lot of these people,
I don't even think it's a problem that they don't understand it. I think it's a problem that they're so confident about it.
I always say the internet loves a confident moron, and the internet spreads their messages around a lot because people will hate on it, spread it, and people will love it because it confirms their bias and spread it. So it gets both packs evenly and just promotes that misinformation, nonsense, garbage. But I think a lot of these people also will talk their books, and it's actually they do like the opposite of what they'll say the opposite of what they're doing because they're trying to move the price in the opposite direction, create momentum and stuff. The most obvious in my eyes is CZ and Arthur Hayes. Anytime they go on and talk about, okay, Bitcoin's going to 1 million, I'm like, okay, we're gonna crash, because they literally it's like pitch perfect timing. Is just right on the nose, those two, in my opinion. And I think a lot of this is that as well. Because there's no reason. Why is Boris Johnson talking about Bitcoin? There's no reason for him to talk about Bitcoin right now. I think it's actually like, I think it's deeper. Like, you got to put your tinfoil hat on with these people a little bit, because there's some ulterior motive to even the topic of that coming up for that person who's just an ex-politician, ex-prime minister of the UK or whatever, right?
What did Stanley Druckenmiller say? I've seen the Boris Johnson kind of a thing with I don't even remember what it was, but it was very stupid. But
he basically said stablecoins are better,
and we don't need a store of value. He's like, yeah, it's a solution in search of a problem, and we never really need a store of value. But stablecoins will be a thing in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah,
wild. Let's recreate the old system with new technology. This is like the whole gold and silver, in general. Like, again, we talked about this yesterday, but like, you got to do your homework. It's like, it can lead a horse to water. You can't make people drink it. And it's beyond frustrating for a Bitcoiner when we've all gone through the fatal funnel. We've gone through the gauntlet. This is not just like we woke up one day and we're geniuses all of a sudden and Nostradamus, like, oh, this is going to be the future. It's from thousands of hours of work, pain, experience, going, building businesses, getting rug pulled. That's why Bitcoiners are Bitcoiners. Bitcoiners, ironically, are the most humble people I've seen, because they're the ones that were open to changing. They left gold and silver, they left real estate, they left these other worlds. So then, like, the Bitcoin maximalism thing is literally a false meme, because if something comes along better, aliens bring down the new element that I haven't seen on the periodic table, and we have a better Bitcoin for some reason, and all of society starts gravitating to that, then I will then check myself and say, you know what, maybe we need to go there because I've done it before and I'll do it again. But nothing on this earth right now at this moment has the properties of Bitcoin. Zero. There's nothing even close. So that to me, that's where the homework has to be done at the end of the day, because all this is just noise in between there, or unless something changes that I'm unaware of, we haven't seen yet. Well, that stands to reason.
Brandon, have you heard of Caspa?
And, you know, that's a great point, Jor. I mean, like, so some of these things, right? Like, they have things that, you know, Bitcoin's open source code. You can go copy it. You can go do the exact same thing. But this is the problem. Like you guys just said, you have like the Terrence Howard. Like when someone confirms your bias, then you just easily like shut your mind off. Like, yes, I don't have to do any work. Yes, like this is great. I knew it was too good to be true, and your brain just shuts off because we're path of least resistance for human beings. It's one of our fallibilities. Like we just want things to be easy, pattern, routine. And so when you have someone, Terrence Howard could get up here on the PBD podcast and say 1,000 amazing things and give a 6-hour podcast, and you still have 8 billion people being like, well, I don't know, buddy. You know, I don't know. But then he says one bad thing, you're like, yeah, yes, mine shuts off. Like, that's great. So something like Caspa, and this is the other dichotomy, where you have Donald Trump, presidents, El Salvador, countries, sovereign wealth funds saying, yes, we're in Bitcoin. We're going to mine Bitcoin. And it's like, there you go. There's your leader doing it. Or it's like super simplistic to your point, like Lindy effect. These things were like, it's existed for 17 years. It has the bandwidth. It's got the capacity. It has the track record. It is the first mover. And then it's like, well, that's too simple, Brandon. Like, that's too easy. Like, okay, then let me show you the 21 million and SHA 256 and all that. Like, whoa, that's way too complicated. And it's like, you can't have it both ways. You know, like you can't, like we're going insane here. And it's just like this thing that humans can't get out of their own way. And that's where you just go back to mindset. You can lead the horse to water, can't make him drink. And you have to be ready to accept it. And you need amount of pain in your life, which is a lot of what a lot of us have experienced in some way, going back to the fatal funnel, the gauntlet that as a Bitcoiner, you have to go through in order to understand Bitcoin. And just a lot of society, whether we, and Rajat, you talked about this the other day, a lot of people in Turkey, like people are talking to, they don't even know what Bitcoin is. People that need Bitcoin don't even know what it is. And so like, it just shows you how early we are. And it's at 17 years in, so like, it's just patience.
Do you guys believe that stable coins will have a future in like 100 years? I mean, I'm very certain that they will be playing a role in like 5-10 years. But like, do you guys think that like we'll never really get rid of the fiat system? There will always be some kind of government token issued, even like 100-200 years, even if Bitcoin is at the $400 trillion market cap?
I think they will, mostly because humans have such a hard time, especially with like the absolute scarcity with a fixed supply. Like it works. It should work. Like there's no reason why we need to keep printing units of currency for our economy to grow. Like it just doesn't make any sense. But every human that occupies the earth right now has been taught that that's the case. And so I think that stablecoins have a future mostly because people won't want to spend their Bitcoin because they see it as, once they get to that point, they're going to see it as like something that they don't want to spend. That's the narrative from the mainstream, is like, never sell your Bitcoin, never sell your Bitcoin. And I think that we'll always need credit. I don't know what credit looks like in the future without something like a stable coin. I mean, it would be very localized, I think, or relationship based and trust based. It's going to be difficult, and it's going to be, I think, a very long journey there. But the reason why I do think we're going to have stable coins is because of that reason. People want more units, and especially if Bitcoin does what I think it's going to do, we're going to need a lot of stable coins. But when I say that, you have to keep in mind here that I'm not talking like fiat currencies where governments just have the ability to create them out of nothing. I think that governments, or whatever survives this next chapter here, whatever the governments look like at that stage, they're going to have a currency that's backed by something. And if they don't, then their currency is going to lose to whoever does. And I think the US has been pretty clear that they want to have a currency that's going to be backed by Bitcoin, backed by gold, backed by oil, backed by what they have as assets on their balance sheet. And so I think the next iteration is going to be currencies that are backed by something, and they're going to compete. And probably the one with the most Bitcoin is going to be the most valuable because it's backed by the most. So in that sense, it'll just kind of be in the next transition. I don't know how long that lasts. Eventually, I think we get to a Bitcoin standard, but I don't know if we're around to see it. But again, the last thing I want to point out there is that at least that stablecoins in that sense will be much better than the fiat currencies that we have today that are literally backed by nothing. At least these will have some backing. And if they're using something like Bitcoin, we can actually verify what they have backing that currency up.
It's hard to predict like 100 years.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's impossible to predict anything super accurately, but there could be these sort of intermediate times before then where there's different levels of stable coins based on the needs of people and the market. So there could even be a stable coin that is backed by Bitcoin and puts on Bitcoin to level out the volatility that still exists within Bitcoin. And then it has to still be denominated in something else. So I guess fiat still exists in that sense, or I don't know what it would be denominated in. I mean, that's where things begin to fall apart in my mind with stable coins, is if Bitcoin is the unit of account, then what are the stable coins priced in, if not Bitcoin?
Would be
And
Bitcoin, right?
but then if they're priced in Bitcoin, then why not just use Bitcoin? Like, what is the utility that a stable coin has at that point? It's kind of hard for me to figure out.
I would just say that the utility that they would have, kind of based on what I was saying, is like they have the network. Where
Yeah, like
if I
the
wanted
rails,
to send, what's that?
like the payment rails or something.
Yeah, and not just the payment rails, but like the actual
The users, the
people.
merchants.
Yeah, people still want like a middleman there.
Yeah, they want the stability. I think
That's
there's always going to
possible.
be people. There's always going to be people who want stability. Like I feel like I feel like they don't care about getting enslaved. I think they're
No,
more
for
worried
sure.
about stability. Like they're
There's
just worried
also
about.
there's also like consumer protection. Like
Yep.
you know, it's sort of a benefit that Bitcoin can't be clawed back, right? But there could be an argument that it's not in some cases. So people might want like that as well. So that would require, but I don't know. I think all of this is just built on top of Bitcoin anyway. Like it's all like a stable coin ends up being Bitcoin locked in a contract like Lightning is, and you can do clawbacks within that system because there's a sort of an oracle intermediary deciding things. I don't know. I don't know how it all looks, but I think it is ultimately all built on Bitcoin.
And it's what
Yep.
I was thinking, because you can of course have a stable coin, but the question is it a stable coin that has the unit US dollar, or is it a stable coin that is ultimately just Bitcoin? So it's like we can have the whole MasterCard, Visa network, callbacks, customer support, user, like the merchant things, all on Bitcoin. We don't need any US dollars for that. And that's what I'm thinking we are right now. I'm kind of obsessed the last, I think, 2 weeks with this car and horse example. I'll just show you guys this, and I'm curious what you guys think on that, because it took. But I did not show this last time around, right? I did not show this last time. I don't remember. I hope I did not. But I just wanted to show this because it took a very long time for the car to be the similar speed of a horse, which sounds weird now. But in the beginning, when the car first came out, it was like only 16 kilometers per hour. And it took it, what was it, about 15 years to catch up with the horse just in speed. So it took a long time for the horse, for the car to actually be as good as the horse was from a standpoint. And then there was a red flag thing. I don't know how to search it. Red flag car. Britain. I don't know if you guys heard about that. It is, yeah, it was the Red Flag Act in the British law. It was there for about how many years? It was for 30 years or something like that, where for 30 years, when you were driving a car, someone had to walk in front of the car to wave and say to people, there's a car coming, pay attention. And so all of those examples for me is just like, now it seems like, oh, like Bitcoin, we need stable coins, we need this and that, we need the users, the merchants, and all of that. I think it just needs time for this ecosystem to kind of like emerge and to spread and make those things happen. And so I found it very fascinating to compare it with a car and a horse. I don't know.
That's so interesting. I had no idea about the flag. I think I heard about. Did you guys hear somebody invented something where every car has to have like a shovel in front of it, so that if people, if maybe it was just a joke or a cartoon or something, but it has to have a shovel in front of it, so that if people show up in front of it, then they don't get hit. They just fall in the shovel and they stay safe. It might have been a cartoon, but I thought it was really funny.
There was an invention that was like it was like a contraption that had a big net that they attached
yes,
to the
a net,
car,
that's what it was.
and it would grab whatever falls into it. I saw a YouTuber tried to recreate it, and it was like the most dangerous thing ever.
I thought they also used to have like a horse's head on the front of a car so that people could associate the car with the horse for a while too. I never heard the red flag. That's wild though.
That's really
absolutely wild.
I heard a guest of mine told it to me. I think last week or something like that, and I was like, "What? Like, how is that?" And it was there for 30 years. It was not like a short law that was outlawed afterwards directly. It was like 30 years directly. So it's crazy.
Robin,
So in
can you
other
share
words,
my screen?
the stable coins would essentially be the red flag for 30 years, maybe, and it's pretty good name for it too, honestly. What?
I thought that was really funny.
Wow. Yeah, Brian DeMint's Bitcoin Evangelism, that book that he wrote 4 or 5 years ago, is an awesome book. And he actually, the first couple chapters go through a lot of this, the different technologies. Like when electricity came out, there was like open, frayed wires, just like everything, right? Like it was just like in people's home and like burn people's home down. And so it took years and decades for a lot of these technologies to really come to this mainstream adoption, safe adoption, like whatever you want to call it, any form of it. So it's like and one of the other examples he had was like 1910. It was one of these newspapers was like, there's never going to be a cargo freight commercial airliner type aircraft. They called it something a little different, right? And the very next year, there was like the first cargo commercial airliner flying. And it's just like, you can't make this stuff up. It's hard to see because we're just living in the middle of it. But when you zoom out and you look back, I mean, like Robin said, like how dumb some of these things look. Well, it's because humans have never, it's all relative. Humans have never experienced these things before. So it's just like, you look at fire. Like if you would have told a caveman, whoever invented fire or discovered fire, it'd be like, oh, we're going to have rockets and we're going to have, jet propulsion and use rocket cooking stoves. And all. He's going to be looking at you like, what are you talking about? So it's just, you have to zoom out at the end of the day, and patience is the name of the game.
I mean, even fire, right? Like to think that you can have just a bundle of sticks and a spark, which are, two just small things that are completely separate, and then all of a sudden you have the creation of fire, which is it feels like alive, and it's a completely different thing that exists. If nobody had experienced fire before, but they've experienced a spark and wood, and you try to explain fire to them and they have no reference point, it would be pretty difficult. It's so novel compared to the inputs, and that's what Bitcoin is, right? Bitcoin is not it was no monumental breakthrough in some new type of technology. It was the combination of many technologies put together to create a new concept of what those technologies can do. And to me, and I mean, many people have made that comparison of Prometheus creating the fire or whatever, but it's the same thing. Satoshi brought forth Bitcoin as a concept and actualized it based on technology that already existed.
Yeah, these are great propaganda pieces, Robin. Thank you for finding these.
Oh, it's from Troy, this one.
This is anti-electricity propaganda from the early 1900s.
There you go.
So you can see here that the light bulb is death. Electricity is death. You got guys caught in wires. The horses are falling over. People falling over in the streets, running away from it. So this is... But I mean, when you think about it, why would this happen? Like, I don't think this is just the newspaper being genuinely concerned with people. It's it's the horses. It's the people who built the horse and buggies. It's the people who sold the kerosene. It's the people who didn't want that to succeed. And that's essentially the JP Morgans and the Boris Johnsons. They'd be the ones these days basically paying for the propaganda against Bitcoin because it makes them obsolete. That's kind of the point of it, right? So, yeah,
the lobbyists, the people paying to make sure that this doesn't pass into regulation.
And it's also just generally people that are afraid, I think, as well.
Yeah,
like I mean, all these people, Stanley Druckenmiller, right? Oh, we don't need a store of value. Oh, well, maybe you don't, because you have so much money already. You have so much wealth. You found your store of value in stocks, bonds, gold, whatever it is. Yeah, those are inferior stores of value, but nonetheless, they do store value compared to fiat. So yeah, you don't see the use case of a store of value with Bitcoin. You don't think that we need that. Many other people would disagree because they don't have a good store of value. There's people in the world right now storing their value in cattle that they have in their, next to their house, because that can at least store value better than the local currency. So I think yeah, it's all perspective. Like these people are talking through their own perspective. Maybe there's alternative reasons why. I think also a lot of it is just fear of change. Like the propagandists that drew that, maybe they were commissioned by the stables that wanted their horses to keep having a place in society. But maybe they were just like, I like the way things are. I like lighting the kerosene lamp, and this is going to change everything, and I don't like change.
Look at the Greenpeace guy. Look at the skull Satoshi a couple years ago, right? And I believe the guy was orange pilled after that by Troy Cross. I think he went and talked to him, and then the guy was like, just like didn't know. Like you said, he was commissioned by someone else, paid off or whatever. And you're like, okay, I'll create this art for you or something like that. And then the guy gets orange pilled. Like it's just this classic. It's only been 17 years to gold, hundreds, thousands of years to become money across the world, and it's only been 17 years. And there are millions of people that have heard of Bitcoin. There's still billions that really haven't, but there's millions and tens of millions that have heard of Bitcoin and are starting to understand it. And it's going to be pain, education that move people. Going back to the stablecoin thing of, stablecoins, they might be this kicking the can down the road a little bit for dollars, for fiat, whatever. But ultimately, Bitcoin is going to be the thing, because people will start, you're going to keep getting screwed in fiat / stablecoins. Like you'll keep getting rug pulled. You're going to keep getting censored. You're going to keep getting frozen. These things won't not happen. Governments guarantee they will continue happening. So if we are betting on humanity just being okay with that for ad infinitum, then okay, sure. And then I could see that case, but I'm just very hopeful. I'm betting that doesn't happen. I'm betting that with another choice out there and a bunch of yahoos like us continually railing against this, and this grows every single year that I've been in Bitcoin, which is dang near a decade, and it grows and more people are talking about it. There's more, collaboration. There's more creators, there's more books. There's that can only go so long. You hit a saturation point and then things change.
I love that. I think Rajat sent me one comment that we should bring up, which I think is an interesting one, because a lot of people thinking about that. The comment said, I think this is the right one, Rajat, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
It said, I have also DCAs, the Bitcoin, but calculating the probable best accumulation point is not a bad idea, so that we can have some emergency or big fall fund. I mean, the whole personal finance side of Bitcoin is something that I discovered literally in the last 5 months, and I'm curious what you guys also think on that, because having gunpowder when Bitcoin is dipping is something I never had in my now 6 years of Bitcoin accumulation. I had money, I just put it in Bitcoin. Like I never timed the market, never did any of those things. And it was talking with a lot of different people that actually it might be smart, especially if you mature and get more responsible, and you get more responsibilities also in life, where maybe it's not a bad idea to have an emergency fund. Maybe it's not a bad idea to start accumulating more when it goes down and a little less when it completely goes up. How do you do you guys have any opinions on to have an accumulation strategy beyond just like me, just putting everything that you have in Bitcoin?
The way that I do it is, if I see an opportunity where the price goes down, I'm just going to buy the exact same amount that I otherwise would have, which is any excess amount that I have in cash. I don't really care. To me, it doesn't matter. If the price goes down, the price goes up, I'm going to keep buying. That's my strategy. It doesn't matter to me. If for example, you're not going to be in 10 years when Bitcoin's $10 million a coin, are you really going to be asking yourself, oh, how much did I buy at 63,000 versus 52,000 versus 68,000? Maybe your tax accountant's going to be asking you, but you're not going to be caring, right? You're going to be more concerned about the 10,000% profit that you have. That's what you're going to be thinking about. And I think trying to time the market is extremely stressful. It's not sustainable. You can try doing it if you want to, but you could get burned really badly. So let's say, for example, if you, okay, maybe you don't, I think that strategy where, let's say you buy when there's fear and you sell when there's greed, or you just buy when there's fear, I think that works.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't buy when there's extreme greed, but again, Bitcoin could easily go up like 3-4x based on how much strategy is buying, based on how much anybody's buying, really. And then it may not come back down to the same levels where it was before. For example, at 10,000 at some point in the past, it was probably extreme fear, or sorry, extreme greed. And then at other times, it was extreme fear. So, but at some point, the point here is that Bitcoin runs out at every price. So just keep buying. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the price you pay for it is. At some point, that price is going to be a rounding error, because Bitcoin is not always going to be sold for dollars. People won't want dollars for their Bitcoin.
There's a lot of variables here. There's what is your time preference? Are you able to wait 5, 10 years, 20 years? Do you have 1 year? If you have do you have a huge amount of capital that you're looking to put towards Bitcoin? Does that mean if your dollar cost average, will it take years for you to burn down to get the balance that you want and the position that you want? Right? There's so many variables here. I can say what I personally do, which is a hybrid strategy of lump sum and dollar cost average. So I have a consistent dollar cost average. When I see just simply using the fear and greed index that Rajat mentioned, I don't use it to trade. I just use it to look at sentiment and say, when we're dipping into fear, that has historically been a good time to buy. I have no idea if it's going to continue being that way, but I imagine there's a higher probabilistic likelihood of it being a good time to buy, looking back at that. So I double my dollar cost average that week or that day or whatever I end up doing, or do a lump sum. But it's about balance as well, because we still live in a fiat world. I still have to pay my rent in fiat. So if my cash balance is drawn down, then I don't do that. If my cash balance is above what I like to have for short-term cash savings, then I will probably be itching to put it in Bitcoin, because I hate holding cash in general. So again, and Rajat, you said this as well, but you can do whatever you want. You can if you have the other variable here is time, energy. If you have the time and energy to try to time the markets and things, go ahead and try. If that's what you want to do, it can be like a little video game. Will you have less sats or more sats? Who knows? But in the end, it probably won't matter if your time horizon's long enough.
It's I really struggle with that, and I think it's a mindset thing, because I always try. I think since 4 or 5 months I try to build up a cash reserve, and then I'm like, oh, that strategy price looks juicy, or like, oh, Bitcoin dipped, like I want to pick it up at 60K. Like it's so hard for me to be disciplined to have any cash whatsoever, because my mind then goes in rationales. Oh, I can just sell Bitcoin if I really need to. Like I struggle a lot with like building that cash reserve. I've been a little bit better the last couple of months, but yeah, it's very hard for me.
A strategy that worked for me in the past, I don't really talk about this that much, but I think it works, is, so let's say, for example, you have a low interest line of credit, let's say 8, 9, 10%. What you could do is, when Bitcoin goes to fear, you use it to buy Bitcoin. And then when it goes to greed, you use your income to pay off that line of credit. And then I guess you can just rotate between paying off and using your line of credit. And I mean, that just, I think it'll help you to accelerate your purchases, like what we're talking about here. How do you even build up the cash reserve? The cash reserve is there. It's fake money anyways. The bank is just creating it out of thin air. Basically, you're just getting a head start on your purchases.
Yeah, you're bringing your purchasing power to the present and paying off that loan plus interest, and making the short-term bet that your Bitcoin's going to out appreciate the interest that you have to pay monthly, yearly for that loan. That's basically what I do, to be honest. I definitely dip into my line of credit oftentimes, and then end up paying that back with future earnings over time.
I know what you mean, Robin. I struggled this for, especially since 2020, when like everything was on sale for a while, and then it was just like finding the next thing that's going to go up big time. So I was in crypto first, and I was always chasing things, and then it was stocks, and I was chasing stocks. And I just think that, you can spend as much time as you want to on trying to time the market, on looking at the price. I think that people just need to keep it as simple as possible. I think that most people out there are overestimating the, do I buy on this day? Do I buy DCA? Do I lump sum? It all equals out. I'm a big believer in that. Over the long term, if you're consistent with it, it's all going to equal out. There's not going to be a better option. You're just going to waste time stressing about it and worrying about it. And I think not enough people understand the importance of keeping their private key safe, because one day, if you're not careful, you're going to wake up and all the sats that you have that you bought through DCA or BCA or whatever CA, they're all going to be gonzo. So it's just, I think that people are focusing on the wrong things, and they need to focus more on actually keeping their Bitcoin that they have today, because it's worth way more than they could ever imagine. They just need to keep it.
I would also just like to say, there's a comment by Third Gear Poll. I'm getting tired of ramen dinners. Obviously he's making a joke there, but that's the other thing too, is that in food is an investment in your health and into your future as well. Ramen is not good for you, right? And you're probably like, if you're putting off the protein meals for other things because you're trying to save money to stack sats, that might not actually be a good investment. You might end up having health issues because of poor lifestyle. These things are all about balance. That was what I initially started off. My answer to this was about balance. Where does balance lead? Where does balance take you with your portfolio of how much cash to have, when to buy, all this kind of stuff? And I think that, it's all great to think, 5-10 years from now, we're all going to be so wealthy. We'll look back at this like, it's wild how wealthy we are now or whatever. You still need to live for today as well, right? So there's a balance there too. You got to do things that are going to make you happy, make you feel fulfilled, and make you feel full. Get the ribeye, get the steak every once in a while.
Also, it impacts your energy, and if you got high energy, you can be more valuable in society, and you can stack more sats that way. So it's like, yeah, you're saving money by eating ramen, but you're not making as much as you could be because you're eating ramen. So there's a trade-off. Everything over time equals out, I believe. And you just got to, like Forrest said, just realize that our energy here is finite. Our time here is finite. And the sats that you hold today are worth significantly more than you think they are. So just enjoy yourself a little bit. Stack some smiles for a while.
I was going to say, spending a little bit more, sometimes it makes you want to earn more as well. Right? Because you see that lifestyle, it makes you feel like, I want this lifestyle more often. I want to be able to enjoy my life this way more often. At least for me, that's how it works. Like, let's say if I could buy steak every single day, a good steak every single day, I would do it, and that's what we're working towards in my life. And then you can also do something like thinking about whether it's actually, there's times where selling your Bitcoin is actually worth it. And I'm not saying trade it. I'm saying if you want to invest in yourself. So let's say, for example, I actually I'm working with a coach, like a business coach almost, and he's helping me to increase my streams of income. Costs a lot of money. Not even gonna lie, cost 5 figures. So a lot of money. I could have just held the Bitcoin, but I think that over time it's going to generate more than the amount that I invested. So if I look at it in terms of Bitcoin, let's say by the time I get my return, Bitcoin is 3x'd, I might have 10x'd my return. So I'll get 3 times whatever Bitcoin I have to put in. I'll get that right back. And I think that's worth it. I think investing in yourself is so worth it. Focus on that instead of trying to time your buys. Timing your buys is going to save you money here and there. But I think that, can you block this guy, Rahul Thelpit or whatever? He keeps posting the same thing. But putting your time into figuring out where to put your money and getting more Bitcoin with that, I think is the best way to do it. Rona Tola said, Rajat is not a Bitcoin maxi. 100% not true. Bitcoin is the only thing that I would save in. It's the only thing that's worth saving in. It's because over time, you know that Bitcoin is going to outperform everything. But your goal is to get more Bitcoin. If you can sell Bitcoin, let's say you can sell 1 Bitcoin, get back 2. by putting in effort, and then you can build a business based on that one Bitcoin that you sold. Why wouldn't you want to do that? You can get back 10 times the amount of Bitcoin that you put in, and that's going to probably generate Bitcoin forever.
Yep. Yeah, you all have to make decisions. Maybe eating ramen tonight does make sense for you. I mean,
Yeah.
to sort of counter that, right? Like maybe it does make sense to stack a couple dollars worth of sats instead of going out to eat or getting a burrito delivered to your house by a private driver. Maybe that makes sense, but
Maybe,
sometimes it doesn't too.
maybe that's just a European thing, probably not a European thing, but like I sometimes go out and spend on an expensive dinner, on a ramen dinner. Like, is that a thing? is that am I the only one doing that?
No,
like where I'm like, it's a nice ramen dinner. Like sometimes you even get like a nice beef in the ramen and all of that. Like, I kind of like it actually, but it's not cheap.
I think we're talking about instant noodles here, but yeah, ramen at restaurants is awesome.
$1 a packet.
Just wanted to
that $25 a bowl lifestyle.
The one thing I'll say on it is just having goals. You guys have kind of danced around and touched on it, but just having goals. Having stacking goals, having spending goals. Like in the fiat world, 15 years ago, it was like I always had like the different buckets. It was like a savings bucket, charity bucket, investing bucket. And just having those things that you're kind of, otherwise you just get into this race of like, I can never have enough sats. And it's like, we're human at the end of the day. You'll kill yourself trying to just, believe me, if you got a wife, different stuff, right? Like as a guy, you might be able to sit there if you're a single dude and you're 25 years old or something, or 35 or 45 and you're single, then you know what, hey, sleep on the couch, eat ramen noodles, whatever. But if there's other things going on in life, trust me, you're not going to be able to load the spring forever because you'll lose everyone around you. They'll be like, dude, you're a psychopath. Sorry. Like you won't have any Bitcoin to spend on anyone at some point. So moral of the story is just have your red lines, like have your goals, stacking goals, spending goals, that's what Bitcoin's there for at the end of the day. Save your time and energy. It's no different than the money we use now, other than it actually stores your value, right? So the currency we spend now is the same as Bitcoin. Bitcoin's money and a currency and all these things. We get the benefits of all the properties with Bitcoin. So just remember that at the end of the day, it's there to help build a circular economy, let you live your life. It's just money that doesn't fly away from you and get stolen from you from guys at the top. That's the only difference. So, set those goals and just stick to them as best you can. And that's, that's to me the biggest thing, I think. Otherwise you just get caught in it. Cause I've been that guy, years ago. I've been like just endlessly, living frivolously, or frugally and just trying to load the spring forever, but you'll kill yourself trying.
Yep. Well said.
You guys have any, because someone talked about that and it's sometimes annoying for me. It keeps on coming up, but I think it's an important topic to address, is the core versus knots thing. Do you guys have any opinions on that? Like it's such a, like I think it's on a edge of like getting less attention now, but it's like keeps on coming up also with the BIP 110. I myself, just to get it started, I don't sit on any verge. I just say Bitcoin will be fine either way. And I think the immune response of Bitcoin was actually very healthy. But I'm just curious if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of are waning a little bit with interest, I would say. But the activation date is in August, so it'll probably ramp up coming into there, I imagine. Yeah, it's very interesting for the soft fork that the activation threshold is 55%, whereas previous soft forks have had 95% thresholds. There's kind of it's a temporary nature. There's only 1 year for it. I sort of go back and forth actually on it, and that's partially because there's a lot to understand here. There's a lot to understand with the game theory, the potential for temporary or a more persistent chain split. Does there end up being two different chains from this with persistent hash rate, and then therefore a market develops around that? I mean, there is potential for that, and I think you're right, Robin, that Bitcoin will ultimately be fine and that this is an immune response. I think that there is also people sort of taking advantage of the immune response in either direction, and sort of running with it for their own purposes. And I also think that as much as Bitcoin will be fine, that doesn't mean that every Bitcoiner is going to be fine. So there's going to be people wrapped up in this quite a lot. And I don't think there's really that much information about like what are the risks to you as a Bitcoiner if this does happen or doesn't happen, if you do support it, if you don't support it, if you actively signal for it or not. What happens if you send your Bitcoin during activation? What happens if it's not compliant? If you send Bitcoin, it's not compliant, but then with BIP 110, but then BIP 110 becomes the longest chain. What happens to your transaction? I think there's potential here of that people aren't really looking at, like potential risks that people are not considering here that could be real, even if their likelihood is small potentially.
I agree with you, Forrest. I mean, it's something that you don't want the solution to be worse than the problem, right? And so that can be the risk that you run at times, and that's where the economic actors in the system, which are people who hold Bitcoin, miners, and the node runners. The people that are really entrenched in the system are going to be the ones that are really in on that. So, I mean, if you want to get really active, I mean, if anyone here is not running a node and looking really going down these rabbit holes, you probably should, because like you said, long term, it's probably it's going to work out the way it should. We've had things in the past. We kind of look back, we're like, okay, whether it's the Taproot or different things where it's like, like, was that the right way to go? Like, are these things the right thing to do? And there's always a contentious at the time. You don't know how they're going to play out. And that's why you do have to really, come in with, seeing many different sides, many different avenues here. And unfortunately, there is some time. But at the end of the day, the market is going to decide what ends up happening. The thing I don't like is like kicking people out of chat rooms, right? Stifling debate, things of that nature. That's when my spidey sense goes up, when we're stifling debate. I'm all for people having debate and the system decentralizing, hardening itself, and having these debates. That's totally fine. But when we're kicking people off of things, like what was happening a year ago or whatever, that's the thing where my spidey sense, it reminds me of Bill de Blasio in New York offering cheeseburgers for people to go get things injected into their body. Like just like stuff like that. Like that kind of stuff makes me like, whoa, that makes my skin crawl. So hopefully we can, have actual debates going forward in the coming days, weeks, months, whatever. Because you don't want the solution to be worse than the problem. Are there things we've been doing for 10 years that all of a sudden we're changing all of a sudden and ramming down everyone's throats? Yeah, there are things. But now are we, is BIP 110 the way to go with it? It's like there's these different elements that people are still really learning. I was saying this yesterday, like I'm still going down the rabbit hole of, because we keep stacking on like, well, okay, well, now we're going to do this. Now we're going to do that. And it's like, okay, so the game keeps shifting. And so the goalposts kind of, they keep moving around and you have to keep following it. So all that being said, like, again, run a node, do all this. So I'm an economic actor in the system, and a lot of people are going to have nothing to do with going on. If you're just holding Bitcoin on an exchange, well, you're completely SOL. I would advise you to go get it off an exchange, self-custody, get your seed phrase, start learning how to run a node, stuff like that, and get plugged into the system. So that to me is but I want to see the debate at the end of the day. I want to see debate. I want to see people talking about it, and there's people that are very technical. I come from the more political revolutionary side and things of that nature, but it's, you got to listen to all sides and use your intuition at the end of the day. You watch the sides, learn, but see how people are acting. I mean, body language, how are they acting? That to me tells, humans, we forget to use those higher faculties at times. And that's where you're going to get a lot of what you need to know just by how people are acting, the body language, facial expressions, because I don't know who's telling the truth all the time. I don't know who's paid off. I don't know who's what, but follow the money and watch how people are acting. And it's going to tell you a lot about the directions that we need to go.
And the Bitcoin network will ultimately decide, right? Eventually, this will just be behind us. Either it will get adoption or it won't, and it will just fade. If it doesn't, that's what happens with a soft fork. If it doesn't get adoption, is it just can exist, persist, be run by some people, and if they're not important enough to the network, then it doesn't matter, right? TikTok next block, Bitcoin just continues on. So we'll see, I guess, this year. But we're going to see sort of I don't know if this is the interesting thing about Bitcoin is software. Bitcoin software always has the potential for bugs and always has the potential for improvements. So it's never going to end. This is never going to end. So if you're waiting on the sidelines because you're wondering about, oh, will Bitcoin become quantum resistant? Will something illicit get into the blockchain in some way that you don't like? I wouldn't wait any longer, because this is always going to be some fear that people will have, and it's basically unfounded because it cannot exist without those vulnerabilities, considering it's a software network.
The one thing, sorry to cut everyone off here. The one thing someone said, co-live, do you all care about spam on blocks? We'd rather have cleaner blocks. So I believe Bitcoin is money. I believe it's a protocol outside the system. It's the greatest money we've ever had. Should it be some data storage, whatever, putting graffiti on there? Like, no, I don't believe that, because that's not there. I can do that anywhere. Like, I don't need to store the U.S. Constitution on there, because I have books still to this day with the U.S. Constitution on it. I have, physical copies of things. I don't need that. But to have money globally around the world, you need to have a digital ledger that it can be run by a lot of people with low data, generally speaking, and that a lot of people can run to increase decentralization of that system. And when you start putting more data on the chain, no matter whatever it is, that is when you start losing decentralization of said system. And again, there's the technology of technology is going to increase, so people will be able to run, have more bandwidth to use. But again, that's the line, kind of what we're talking about, where to me, it's money. The greatest thing we can do to reorient the entire system and get rid of a lot of the problems we're seeing in life is to fix the money, separate money from state, and then things start fixing themselves downstream naturally and organically. Like we've been given lately the Jesus in the temple, driving out the money changers. Do we not think that's analogous to what's going on today? My goodness. I mean, holy cow. Like, it was literally in there. Like, he's driving out and then what happened after that? The meek, the humble, the lame, the blind all started slowly coming back into the temple. And once he drove out the cartel. And so that's exactly what we're dealing with now. And all this stuff on the side is just complete shenanigans that's distracting us from the main thing, the very main thing that starts reorienting and cleaning up the stream. You can't have good fruit from a bad tree. So if you disrupt the money, if you have dishonest money, you're going to have dishonest society. And to me, that is the greatest sin we've committed to materially on this earth, maybe other than Adam and Eve. But doing that, what comes next after you say, I'm God? Well, you start saying, well, I'm God here too with the money. I'm going to create my own money and I'm going to start stealing from everyone else. All the sins start emanating from that. And so to me, that's the greatest good we could be doing. And that's frankly why I'm here. So to answer that question, yeah, I believe that should be something that we can decentralize. It's money. And where it goes from there, again, that's what we're talking about. I don't know everything, continually trying to learn, but if that's my center, that's my core at the end of the day with where I'm coming from. Did you know that that's the origin of the name NOTs, the Bitcoin node implementation? I don't know if I did. No, that's in that sentence in the Bible about Jesus getting the money changers out of the temple. He uses a rope of knots. A rope of knots, yeah. Yeah. I did not know that was because of that, though. Yeah, that's the name. Origin name.
And I think for me, Bitcoin is very hard to change by design. And it's funny, somebody in the chat about 5 minutes ago asked for book recommendations. And so I wanted to briefly bring this up because it's one I'm going through right now, which is 21 Lessons by Gigi. And if we think about it this way, Bitcoin is inherently very difficult to change by design. And there's a point in here where it says, to be considered truly leaderless, you must surrender the easy solution of having an entity that can designate one chain as the legitimate one. And so it kind of makes me think of yeah, it sucks right now that we have to go through all this. It sucks that we can't just have two people debate and then have one person decide who made the better point, which one makes sense for the network. But that's not what this is. This is a truly decentralized system. And so we have to fight about this stuff. This is all part of it. If you don't want to have somebody that says this is the chain or this is the better solution, then you have to fight about it. And the cool thing for me anyways, is that it's very difficult to change by design. And therefore, unless the overwhelming majority of people decide that they want to make a change, it just won't change. And it seems like to me, Bitcoin's working pretty good as it is. Obviously, I don't want crap on the blockchain, but I also don't want to change Bitcoin. So I think that the more conversation we can have about it, open debates, I think that's important. That's what we need. If we're going to have a truly decentralized system here, which Bitcoin is, you have to have that, because there's not one person here that says this is the better option. This person, and that's the thing, is if you had both BIP 110 and continue as usual, they both had their summaries, and you had one guy, even if it was AI, to say this is the better option, this is what we're going with. It'd be easier. But it's not an easy thing here. This is difficult by design. It's leaderless. And that means that there are going to be things that come up like this, and it probably won't end as long as we're alive here. So get used to it.
Yeah.
right, guys,
Yep.
I gotta head out. Really good session. Thank you so much for
Great
having
Yeah,
stuff,
you're
me.
leaving
brother.
already? Holy cow, man. We just
Yeah, I
got
It
gotta
flew
go.
by. Thought we were like 30 minutes in. Jeez.
Yeah.
Okay.
guys.
See you, Rajat.
See you,
Enjoy
Rajat.
your
Good stuff, brother.
orange slices.
Thanks, man. Bye for now.
See you, brother. Oh, man.
That's great. He gets his orange license. Or what was that?
Orange
I don't know,
slices.
someone
He
in
was
the
eating
chat
the
was chirping
orange.
about that.
Oh,
was
he
eating orange
was eating the
slices.
orange slices.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I was like, there's
He
an
was getting
orange
it.
license to get.
People are chirping him in the chat. Yeah, this is,
Maybe it's a good thing because you brought it up briefly, Joe. The making sure the Bitcoin is safe. If you want to talk about it, because I think it's very important to give the notice for people that yes, accumulation strategy is great. Yes, like making sure you make everything right, have a cash buffer and all of that. But it all doesn't matter if your Bitcoin is gone in the end of the day.
So I mean, I think it was last month, the product head of X came out and said that his prediction was that within 90 days, the internet was basically going to become unusable because of spam and AI agents kind of taking over. And I'll just say, I'm not going to give away too much information today, but I had a couple key accounts get hacked this morning. And it's, I know a lot of people in my life that would have maybe a fraction of the, what would you call it, how strong your password is and how they're kept. And I got hit. I mean, I'm a target probably because I'm on YouTube and stuff like that. But I just want people to be aware of it. I want you to take this very seriously. And thankfully, it was only some sats that I had on Lightning Wallet on the internet. But I just want people to kind of go under the assumption that everything that you have is going to be taken from you online. Bitcoin in self-custody, much different story, especially if you got a passphrase around it. If you have it encrypted, even better. But anything that's online, whether it's emails, history, Lightning, sats, accounts on different things, just assume that it's going to be hacked because that's where we are right now. It costs almost nothing to scour the internet, to target specific people, to get information out of them. And this information has been floating around, especially if you have a ledger or if you're a Coinbase user. But anyways, my point is gonna take a very good inventory of your online footprint that you have right now. If you've been using the same password for the last 10 years, consider that you're hacked. You're going to be hacked. If they haven't done it yet, they probably will soon. And you got to take this stuff seriously because it's not going to slow down. It's going to ramp up. And if you have anything meaningful, important, sensitive, you need to take this as seriously as possible. And you don't have very long, I don't think. So understand where we're going. Bitcoin is going to be a solution to this, I think, in order to, verify yourself, prove real, bringing energy from physical to digital. But you got to look after yourself and just don't take anything for granted online. Make sure that everything is as airtight as you can make it. And I learned my lesson today, and thankfully it was a small lesson, but it's something I think about every day. I talk about every day, and it's still like I still feel very vulnerable and susceptible to it because I don't know what's lurking out there, boys. It's scary.
Yeah. So keep your Bitcoin offline. Keep your private keys offline. Generated offline stays offline. Use a good password manager. Don't reuse passwords. That's the easiest hack possible. Is creating a fake website where they trick you into putting in your password, and most people reuse passwords, and then they get your data off of a data broker. They see what websites you've signed up for, and then with what email, and then they just try that password in every single one of them until they gain access to other accounts. It's a really, really easy hack. The internet is, we literally don't know if the whatever president or prime minister of Israel is alive right now.
Yeah.
We literally don't know if he's alive right now. And the video circulating of him being alive is being dissected by everybody. It's saying this is AI, this is not AI. It's caused so much confusion of whether this huge world event has happened or not because of how uncertain reality is on the internet now at this point. So that's just going to get harder and harder to discern as an individual whether what you're looking at is real or not. So if you can keep your private keys offline, that's going to protect you entirely from that risk vector of the internet becoming harder and harder to navigate.
Wild. It's funny because, again, like we've been saying for what, 2 decades now, don't trust everything you see on the internet. Now you literally can't trust anything you see on the internet, which is great because as a Bitcoiner, it's great for us because it was already, trust but verify, or don't trust, verify, that type of mentality, right? And now the world is waking up to that. And I've seen, I don't know if it was Scott Adams before he passed away, or if it was, Nolan Bowerly, one of our own Bitcoiner, saying that this year going forward was going to be the year of auditing. Audit was the word. And what better word as a Bitcoiner to have people being exposed everywhere, whether it's the files coming out, AI, having people, training people to understand that, yeah, you need to be auditing things. You have to, whether it's the vote, the SAFE Act that's trying to be passed here in America, and you have Chuck Schumer up there like, well, there's literally going to purge millions of people from the rolls, like saying the quiet part out loud. It's truly wild, but people are slowly waking up to this. And unfortunately for us, like it doesn't happen overnight. People don't just see Bitcoin overnight. They can't just audit things overnight, but we're getting there. Like directionally, that's why I've been telling people too. I think I said this last week to you guys, but 20 years ago, I was very political. And if you would have told me 95% of what's going on in the world right now is happening currently, I would have laughed you out of the room. Like the richest guy in the world talking about all, conspiracy theories, and we're talking about the money flows, who's controlling the president. That was unheard of 20 years ago. Totally taboo, totally unheard of. And it was just out of the realm of 99.999% of people. So we're directionally going the right way. And it's just unfortunate, I guess, to a degree. Maybe there'd be mass chaos. I mean, maybe if we were really quickly going the route Bitcoiners are going, there'd probably be a lot of chaos in that way too, because entrepreneurial, visionary type people, early adopters tend to be very just like, hey, we're going here and then we're going there. We're doing this, we're doing that. I'm sure there's a reason, there's a rhyme and a reason for it, nature's law, and it's just going to play out the way it's supposed to. But we're going the right direction. We're going to win, guys. We're going to win.
And I asked myself the question of like, if we're entering a world where you cannot verify anything on the internet, like every video can be fake, even slowly robotics, like it gets almost harder to trust in-person things. Like if the robots get really good, masks get really good, body composition gets really good, where there's a person walking down the road and you couldn't tell without stabbing in the stomach if he's a robot or a human being. I think we get to that point at some point. What's the worth of something that you can verify, like Bitcoin? Like what is the worth of that in an AI world? I think it's truly there's a reason why some of the AI people really swear on Bitcoin. There was this, I think a half a year or 4 months ago, something like that, on Diary of his CEO, this random AI guy. And I listened to the podcast, just like it was a full AI podcast. Host was not a Bitcoiner. I mean, he has some Bitcoin, but he's not a Bitcoiner at all. And he was not like outspoken a Bitcoin or something like that. And the host just asked him, Stephen just asked him after 1 hour 10 or something like that, hey, 2035, 2045, what is one thing you should do to get ready for this AI world? And he just says, buy Bitcoin. Just like randomly puts it out there. And like he explains it like Bitcoin is the only thing that the AI will not be able to manipulate. It's literally the only thing. So I think even that message of it's verifiable in a world where nothing else is verifiable, where there's a person standing in front of you and you're not 100% sure is this a robot or like an actual human being.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big part of the internet in the future. And Jason Lowry's talked about this before on Twitter. He basically said, and this has been the thesis for a while now, is that everything's going to become unusable. You're not going to know what's real, what's fake. It's going to be so cheap to, unleash hell on anybody. And comment sections, and the four of us, I'm sure, see it every day, where you open up you post a video and there's 100 comments under there. And you're like, do I spend 10 minutes getting rid of these, or do I just like dirty up my channel here and make people have to sift through them?
Yeah.
And so I think that the cool thing about Bitcoin is that it allows for micropayments where you could post a video and say, if somebody wants to leave a comment on this, they got to pay 1 sat. And it's like a fraction of a penny today, or the equivalent of a fraction of a penny. It doesn't have to be anything significant. You're using a currency that cannot be created out of thin air to prove that you are a real person. And you might say, well, whoever has the most Bitcoin can manipulate things. Well, yeah, for a while, but they're going to run out eventually. And that's the whole point of using Bitcoin for that versus fiat, because Politicians can't print more Bitcoin to unleash their propaganda on people. So that's where Bitcoin comes into the equation here. I just fear that people themselves are taking this lightly, especially with Bitcoin. And, I learned a lesson this morning. Thankfully, it wasn't a big lesson, but enough for me to change path and not let it happen again. But just be careful out there, especially if you got sats online on an exchange, on a Lightning wallet that you have a password to. Just be careful, because they're probably going to be gone sometime soon, unless you make some change soon.
Yeah, and Bitcoin is the most obvious, possibly top thing that is becoming more and more scarce over time, while everything becomes more and more abundant, right? There might be things that become relatively scarce, but not as scarce. I think Bitcoin is right at the top there. It's getting more and more difficult to acquire Bitcoin. It's reflected in the price. Of course, the price is volatile all over the place, but over time, it's going up beyond anything else. And people will say, well, NVIDIA did really well. Well, guess what happens when that happens is they issue more shares. There's more stock-based compensation. It's pretty easy for NVIDIA as a company to create more shares. Nobody can do that in Bitcoin. There's 3.125 new Bitcoin being released every 10 minutes. And in 2028, it's going to be half that. So it gets more and more scarce over time. And everybody talks about the abundance we're going to live in. We're going to have universal high income because of AI, all this kind of stuff. That only happens because things are getting easier to acquire, easier to make. And it's definitely true. Like I know just from like personal experience, like editing thumbnails, editing videos, I do all of that with AI now. And it's like, why would I have a subscription to Adobe? Why would I need to spend time creating these photos anymore when I can just use AI to do it? And that's abundance. That's something easier happening because of AI, and it's taking market share from those things. So everything is at threat of AI, in my opinion, and robotics, as Robin mentioned as well. Bitcoin is not. Bitcoin is going to be the beneficiary of that abundance that comes into the world. It's actually going to benefit the most over time because of the abundance.
I love that point so much. I'll just quickly take a moment for showing you guys our YouTube channels, because I think we've made a huge progress. I think we pushed from like 20 or 30 subscribers to 150 now within a week, which is
last week.
Yeah, like that was amazing. And so if you're not, and a special shout out to like the 10 guys that already watch the whole episode live on the channel. I think last week we had like 2 people, now we have 10 people. that's amazing. So if you haven't done it, just go out there. BTC Mastermind. It's way easier now to search. I've tested it out. First, it was like very hard to search because you had to scroll down like a lot. It gets easier, but just search that handle exactly as it is. It gets easier, especially with the youtube.com at BTC Mastermind. I think it's a good way to get there. So just want to quickly shout out the channel, because slowly but surely we will move our chats to there, and yeah, looking forward to that.
Good call. Forrest just shared it in the private chat there, so we should be able to share it for people to go check out. Yeah, ideally we want to have everybody in the same spot. That's the end goal with this, is to have everybody in one spot so everybody can see the comments. We don't have to bring them up on screen, and so hopefully sooner than later. But shout out to everybody who has subscribed over there. Hey, there was an interesting comment here that I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. I lost it though now.
What was it about?
Oh, right here. From Third Gear Paul, if you want to bring that up, Robin. It said, fear for me is more physical than online. See, and that's where I used to be too. And I think it's important to obviously keep a good handle on both. It's quite a ways up, Robin. It was at like 2 o'clock, I think. It says, fear for me is more physical than online. But if you think about it, like, again, technology is getting pretty good. There's the AI bots. They can do a lot of things now. And if you think about it, do you think it'd be easier for somebody in Pakistan or Thailand or Indonesia or Russia or anywhere would it be easier for them to fly to your house, book a ticket, find out where your house is, break in your house, hopefully they can get some Bitcoin out of you somehow, or sit their ass on their couch at home and try to use other techniques for social engineering you or hacking your accounts? I think it's going to be much more likely that Bitcoiners are going to get hacked from online stuff as opposed to physical. I think a physical is like a marketing thing. There's been a lot of people selling like hardware devices and steel plates and things like that, which obviously are very important. You can't skip that part of it. But I think people really underestimate the threat of online social engineering, scamming, hacking. I think that's really going to ramp up because it's just getting easier and easier for people to do. And it's way easier for them as opposed to trying to find where you are physically and have to extract the Bitcoin from you that way. So just be aware of that. That's what I'd say.
It's about risk reward. So right now the reward is way easier to do remotely, and the risk is always going to be high to have a physical altercation to try to get your valuables from you. It's why we're all relatively safe, because even if somebody wants something that you have, they fear the repercussions of trying to take that from you. There's a real risk of them getting hurt, of it not going well, all that kind of stuff. If you're super remote, you're using ways to make your digital usage more anonymous. You might get caught trying to scam somebody online, but you probably won't. And then even if it doesn't get a reward of you being able to be successful with the scam, there's still no harm to you, right? So it's about risk reward, and that might shift, that might change, but I don't think so. I think it's actually just going to get easier and easier in the short to medium term to scam people online than it is to physically going to altercate with them.
Yeah, and I think this is also the thing of how much of a criminal are you? Like if you want to just steal money, like that's a different kind of a criminal than breaking into a house and trying to like torture someone to give you the Bitcoin. Like there's a whole different level of criminal activity, a whole different level of
both pieces of shit though.
Yeah, for the later one, you really have to, like, there has to be something very wrong in your brain. It's not like it's something that there's something very, very wrong. And so it's it's logical emotionally that you're afraid of someone coming at you and like beating the shit out of you. But it's more likely that someone gets access to your account and like steals your Satoshis from that way. Way more likely than like someone actually coming to your home and doing that, because maybe they are not even home. Like maybe you don't have any Bitcoin home. I certainly avoid that. Having all of your wealth sitting at home, maybe not a good idea. And I think maybe people realize that you can't access all your Bitcoin directly at home. Like you don't have like a gold bar that you like, give me that, okay, here, and I'm gone. Like it's not that easy. So it's way more easy to like, as Forrest described before, just like get a password that you were using, looking at all the email entry data and like doing all that. It's a way more likely risk that it happens to you.
Yep. And like the gambler just had a question of like, is it safe to hold your Bitcoin in Robinhood? And again, like everything we're just saying, it's like it's all relative. It depends on what your definition of safe is. You know, like if you don't trust yourself with remembering a few words or putting things in self-custody and spending the 10 minutes to do it, then I guess Robinhood might be a way. I mean, it's not your Bitcoin, it's Robinhood's Bitcoin. They have the keys of it. So it depends on what everyone's comfortable doing. And again, this is everything we talk about just goes back to mindset from me, right? Like, how does a fish know he's wet if he's been in the water his whole life? Like we live in a world where government currencies are the only things that have existed in our lives. So we're just used to that. We're just used to someone else custodying it, taking care of it, telling us it's there when it's really not. And again, audit, go back to the word audit, 2026 and going forward. Younger generations will not put up with, if anyone's been walking around at all in the last few years, the younger generations will not put up with lack of transparency, opaqueness, the lack of auditing, all of that. Like they're done. No more. The systems are FUBAR. That's why like I empathize with people with the war stuff that's going on, like I understand both sides of it. I can clearly argue both sides of the aisle in essence. And there's actually more than like two different positions, but you have people that are like, well, it's against the Constitution, what Donald Trump's doing. When's the last time America followed the Constitution? You know, like that system doesn't exist anymore. And that's the Jeff Booth, you can't fix reality from the current system. That's why we're over here on the life raft, the Bitcoin life raft. You can't have capitalism. You can't have a government. You can't have honest society with dishonest money on a foundation, a faulty foundation of broken government-run currencies. Like it's literally impossible. It devolves into mass chaos, and that's exactly what we're seeing. It's just hard to see because we've grown up in it all of our life, and we don't know any different. So it's very hard this world. So to me, just being a student of history and 38 years old, I started doing this when I was like literally 10, 12, 13 years old, and studying history, being in politics, very political, arguing with teachers and professors, then getting into the business world, studying money, monetary history, central banks, gold and silver, real estate, doing these businesses myself, and then being 8-10 years in Bitcoin. It's very obvious to me, but that's me. I can't give 25 years of knowledge if someone put it in their head, right? That's why we go back to doing the work. You have to do the work in order to understand what's going on. Go through the experience, go through the gauntlet, go through that fatal funnel. And that's where, to me, I don't trust anything in this system because I've seen history play out. I've read the history and then I've experienced a lot of it, a good amount of it. So to me, the best thing is to defund the system, suck the life force out of it. And that's by selling your dollars, giving them back the dollars, lowering the value of that network, and then increasing the value of the Bitcoin network, the system that can't be corrupted and controlled by the same people that have destroyed everything. That's my choice. That's where I think the world is going. And so everyone else might have this different, spectrum of thoughts on it. And Robinhood's good and Coinbase is okay. Well, I'm 75 and I want to retire, so I want some stretch, whatever it is. I want some income. Everyone's on a different part of that. Like not everyone's a revolutionary. Not everyone's a martyr. Not everyone's, a historian. Not everyone's, X, Y, and Z thing, right? We all come from different places and different worlds. That's why these debates are so interesting because everyone's got different perspectives. With core versus not, like we said about earlier, like everyone is coming together in this decentralized system with their own experiences and thoughts and studying and lessons. And that's what makes this so fascinating. That's what makes life fascinating. So, what I would do? No, I would have it in self-custody. Like I run a node, keep your Bitcoin in self-custody, take it away, suffocate the system. But that's me. That's the optimal thing. So hope that helps.
Yeah, well said. I got to run, guys. So I'm going to take off.
Okay, see you, Forrest.
Chat. See you guys.
Appreciate it.
And then there were three.
We just keep on going till only one guy is left.
We should. We used to have when I was playing hockey, like back in the day, or like you guys might have done this as kids too, probably. But like you'd have like the different tournaments where like once in a while you would, if you had overtime, you would start 5-on-5, and like every 5 minutes they'd take a player off the ice, and then you get down to like 1-on-1, and that's how you like. I didn't have it happen many times, like maybe only once or something like that, because usually it'd end on like 3-on-3 or something like that, or two. You would never get to like 1-on-1, but I was always like, oh man, this is gonna be crazy if it gets down to like 1-on-1. Oh man,
yeah, we do.
One guy.
Yeah, that's. I forgot about that. I don't think they still do that anymore, though. Now I don't have kids. So I'm not.
You can't. Well, again, like we got snowflakes. We got people are weak. They're effeminate. So you can't have people like, oh, you're out there. It's on you. You lost. The team lost because of you. You can't have that anymore. Come on. What are we talking about?
Half rinks.
So, yeah, half rinks.
Half rinks.
Responsibility is lost.
Killed society.
Literally, men don't get punched in the face anymore. I'm telling you, that's my theory, guys. Men don't get punched in the face anymore. So there's no feedback loop.
Yeah,
keyboard warriors now.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. People do need to get punched in the face, and I think that's a big thing of people being able to hide behind a fake account online or a NIM account online. As much as I respect people's privacy and be able to do that, they get away with a lot of stuff now. But I still think I'm a big believer in, whatever you want to call it, karma. Well, I like calling it karma, right? So. Yeah. If you wrong somebody, if you steal from somebody, you're going to get that stolen from you in this life or the next lifetime. And it's all about doing right with your own soul. And it looks different in other people. So I can't tell people what's right, what's wrong. To me, some things are right, some things are wrong, but I can only control what my soul says, right? And that might be different from somebody else. But I'm a big believer in karma. And I do think that the people who have stolen from humans for so long will pay for it in one way. They might not get, strung out there, or jail time or whatever, but they're going to pay for it in the next life or the next life after that. And that's my belief anyways. It could be wrong, but Yeah, there's a special place for people who steal things from people, or
100%.
harm people. I think we just really need to go back to that world where, as long as you're minding your own business, you're not affecting other people or harming other people, you should be able to do whatever the hell you want.
I heard a good quote one day that your own freedom goes as far as someone else's freedom starts. And so, like, if your freedom goes so far that it restricts other people's freedom, it goes too far. It kind of limits someone else. And I think this is a great way of putting how freedom is, because it's very. I noticed that, like, freedom discussions and like what we should do in the political system is like sometimes very hard for Bitcoiners, because we have very nuanced opinions on things, and it's not always like black and white like that. And so, like, with the freedom discussion, it's hard, because there's some topics where, like, it's good, it's bad, like where we see the state intervene. So yeah, just wanted to mention that I think freedom is an important one, but also, as Brandon said, which is very, very true, self-responsibility. That's something I don't know, like it seems to be lost. People no longer want to take responsibilities. They want to just throw it off to someone else. Someone else will deal with that, and it's okay. And they want to hide, and they want to blame someone else, and they don't want to take responsibility. They don't take step forward. So I think, like, literally, if you are living in 2026 and you're a person that takes on responsibilities and shows this to other people, you will be amazing. Like, you will be doing so good, because people, no matter if you want to go up in like entrepreneurship, if you want to climb the career ladder, like no matter what you want to do, if you're the guy that takes responsibility and sees your faults as your faults and improves on that, and sees the right and wrong in there, you will be amazing, just by the feedback loop that was Brandon also talking about. Because if you always blame other people, and if you can't take the responsibility for your own mistakes, there is the learning process missing, the feedback loop is missing, and you don't have a chance to get better. You just, like, you get stuck at that level. And that self-responsibility is a big one for me, because I don't know why, but I get very annoyed if people don't take responsibility.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, again, one of those things of Bitcoin that will be reinstituted, right? Bitcoin changes you. You become a different person not because of Bitcoin, but it's because the properties the protocol contains that change it, right? Bitcoin's a 4-letter word. And so it's not that Bitcoin, it's like, oh, Bitcoin's this great thing. Yeah, you Bitcoin bros, crypto bros, whatever, moon boys. It's the properties. And like we said this earlier, Bitcoiners are very open-minded. You try to humble yourself. It's an ego test and humility test, not an IQ test. So if something came along that was better than Bitcoin, because it had some element, again, from around the universe that gave us something where all of a sudden we now have something that is better, and humans started, and I wouldn't be the first person to do it. Like, just like I wasn't the first person to Bitcoin. I'm not necessarily gonna be the pioneer guy. I'm gonna read the tea leaves. Like, I'm gonna see what's going on, pattern recognizer. So you have the people, like the early, the first people doing things. Those are the people that have the arrows in their back, generally speaking, right? And a lot of them get taken out. We've seen that with Ross Ulbrichts of the world, even the Bill and Keones, the samurai guys. Like, you have people that start inventing things. I'm not that smart. I'm 80 IQ, so that's God didn't give me that ability to create these amazing things. So I just sit here and yell at and talk about stuff but that's where, when you start recognizing the pattern shifting and facts change, then you hope people can start recognizing that. The pattern recognizers, maybe those early adapters, start seeing that and they start moving that way. Again, that's how all of us came to Bitcoin at the end of the day. That's how we got here, because we were open to changing. Because, again, for myself, I was gold and silver guy. I was real estate guy, studying monetary history, coming from the political world. So the red versus blue fighting, and then being open-minded to maybe there is something different, and then seeing Bitcoin. And it, takes a bit of time, and you realize, you go through your objections, and wow, this is something different. There's some different promise here, something that humans haven't seen before. But you have to be open to it. And again, that's what the Bitcoiners right now, as it stands, those are the people that are open to, hey, there might be something else out there better than what we've been trying to do for, you call it at least a century here, since the Federal Reserve.
Isn't it wild how they got away with it for so long?
It blows the mind. But again, you guys might have a different answer to this. The only thing I can think of really is just America got so big and so strong because just like a perfect storm of events, right? Like technology getting to a point, the Bretton Woods conference happening, the world wars ended. So a lot of Europe, these different countries were leveled for all intents and purposes, just generally speaking, right? So you have this world where, and then because of that, America got to build up this massive army, the production, the geography of America. It's really this perfect storm of events that have created, and it's not like it's been 200 years. It's only been 50, 60, 80 years of being the world reserve currency, right? So we're right in that window of actually when world reserve currencies fail. So people say like, oh, the US dollar is too strong and the military is too big. Well, it's like, well, it's not like it's been 300 years or something like that. It's not like it's like we've like outshot, the boundaries here. We're right in the prime sweet spot for currency change and world reserve currency changing. And so, because you guys might know, but what is it, 80 years, 60, 80, 100 years that the world reserve currency generally changes. So we're right there. Like we're right in the throes of that. And it's like, of course we're dealing with all these things, and it's chaotic, and it's going to be.
China's going to win though, if you ask Ray Dalio.
Oh boy. Yeah. China's got it. So someone Life put this question up, and they put it up earlier too. Someone else did actually, but the 200 million cold wallets. So I wanted to just talk about it quick. It's come up a couple of times. But what happens if 10% of Bitcoiners want to open a Lightning channel to sell to an exchange, etc.?
Oh,
yeah. So just talking about like the block space, just different stuff in general. I mean, part of this is why I know all of us do what we do and come talk about it, and the people in the chat too, right? All of you guys in the chat, this is why you're here, because I know the people in the chat are doing just as much as we're doing. Like they're talking to family, they're doing stuff. I'm sure some of you guys have blogs, you're writing things, like you're doing things, right? So we're trying to alert people to what's going on, because yes, this is going to the incentives of the market, because it's a finite structure, finite block space, finite amount of Bitcoin. The price in government currencies is going to go up until it doesn't exist anymore, until those things don't exist, right? And you're just trading sats for other things of value. So and that's why we're doing this. So we're trying to warn everyone, hey, this is going to go up in price, in government price. If you don't want it to, I would suggest studying Bitcoin and getting in now. And the other part of it is just the incentives are such that when things are warranted, like I was listening to Francis Pouliot and NVK the other day when Ben and Nathan from BTC Sessions were doing their thing, and these guys talked about it too. They're like, guys, patience. Like this is just patience. He's like, there's a lot of things we could do in Bitcoin, but they're not needed yet. Like the market isn't demanding them yet. And I forget which one was saying that, but it's very real. So like we as Bitcoiners, we tend to or human beings more or less, we tend to conflate all the time horizons into like one moment. And it's like, that's not how things work. Like when the market wants these things or wants X, Y, and Z thing, there will become other options, a liquid, Lightning, Fetty, like these other things will become much more usable or easier, or there'll be more bandwidth associated to them. So these things will resolve themselves just like they have for 17 years. But we tend to just like myopically look at it, and it's just right this second, and this thing doesn't work right this second, or whatever FUD it might be. It's like, well, people are working on these things, and necessity is the mother of invention. So the things that's the beauty of Bitcoin being anti-fragile and being a protocol, we can layer things in to help with it, because it is a protocol, and bolt things on, literally and figuratively, right? So these things will be fixed and can be fixed, but a lot of these things aren't needed yet. And because this is what we're doing. We're trying to educate people like, hey, this is the future. Defund this system, suck the life out of it, bring your time and energy here. And how you see Bitcoin today won't be what it generally looks like 10 years from now or 20 years from now. So it's going to ebb and flow. Things will happen when we need it. It will come when the market wants it and the market needs it. It'll pay for it, and it will do that. We will get there.
That's freaking awesome. But I think Joe, you also have to go soon. So I think we're at about like 1.5 hours. I think it's an amazing point again to end. I'll make it again with you two to see if you guys have any tips, snippets, nuggets, whatever you want to call it, for the end. If you guys have anything, Brandon, sure, feel free to share it. Otherwise, we'll end the screen.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of piggyback off what I said before in terms of the paying close attention to your passwords. It's something I've been actually trying to do for the last year, honestly, is clean up my passwords and pay attention to the most important ones and make sure that those are generated and stored offline. There's actually pretty cool devices now, like even the cold card queue. Like you can actually generate passwords on this now. You can store them on this now. You got to be careful though, because just as the case with Bitcoin, like if you got a substantial amount that you're protecting, you don't want it at your house. You don't want a single point of failure, not just in case, the house starts on fire or there's a tornado like we've seen quite a bit in the US in the last week or two. But to make sure that you can't exit yourself, you can't access it. So I think if you can work your way towards getting into a setup in Bitcoin where you hardly have any Bitcoin on hand that's easily accessible to you, and the majority of them is like in a multi-sig, geographically dispersed, you're just going to really limit the amount of things that can go wrong, because we kind of had an argument there between physical attacks versus like online attacks, like social engineering. And I think if you can get your Bitcoin into like a multi-sig and put your devices in different spots, you're going to be pretty much immune from both. You're going to be immune from physical attacks. You're going to be immune from natural disasters like fires and tornadoes, but you're also going to be immune from social engineering, because if it's difficult for you to access, then it's going to be difficult for somebody to try to get from you. So I just think that people need to pay a little bit less time watching the charts, paying attention to who's doing what and who's arguing with who and what the latest software implementation is and all that kind of stuff, and really just focus on protecting the assets that you have. That's your passwords, that's your Bitcoin, that's your family. That's what you need to be protecting, because it's a pretty uncertain and chaotic world out there. And if you're taking this stuff lightly, you're going to get absolutely lit up. And there's going to be a lot of that happening, I think, in the next 12 months. So just be aware, as Marty says on TFTC. What does he say? Be aware, freaks? Something like that. Be aware.
Yeah, something like that. Can't remember now that you say that. Yeah, well said. Well said, brother. Appreciate you guys as always. Great chat. Feels like it gets better every single week. And I feel like I'm like, this is the best one. And then somehow we just keep leveling up each week, which I guess makes sense. Yeah, just going back to what you're saying, like social engineering. I think of Edward Bernays, and that's where like the government, like mass brainwashing in schools. Edward Bernays for 100 years, getting us into the wars, teaching the government how to mass psyop people. The intelligence agencies going back to late 1800s, early 1900s, all of it around the same time period. So all these things, there's just so much that's going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. And that's why what George said is so important. Focus on what you can control, you, yourself, and your actions. And what are the things right around you? Other than maybe yourself, right? Maybe your spouse and helping them and your kids, maybe some direct family, maybe right around your friends. Like that's it. I mean, your little sphere right there. And if you do that, then other people start doing that, starts rippling out. One person, one family can change the world. And that's where this is going. We're already going the right direction. Like we said earlier, we are winning. We are absolutely the price of Bitcoin, 17 straight years up and to the right. The conspiracy theories, all the people, they keep being right. It's really weird. Every 6 months, all these conspiracies keep coming true, right? All these things just keep going up and to the right. So we are winning. Zoom out, set your goals, set your spending goals, your stacking goals, and make sure you live a little bit. Don't kill yourself just trying to stack the whole time, but live a little bit, but set those goals. So you have those red lines, you have those lines in the sand of like, okay, I feel good. I've set these things, I hit them. I can reward myself a little bit. I can live my life. I can do my thing. And then you'll I don't know if it was Jor or Rajat who was saying that, but then you're incentivized and you want to do it even more. You want to go earn even more and produce more and get more streams of income. So that way you can stack more sats and do it again. So, just keep your head on a swivel, keep your stick on the ice. We'll be good. We're winning.
Speak abundance. I think a lot of people miss that in life. There's a lot of people who, they have the right intentions, but they're focusing on the wrong things. They're focusing on, let's say, paying down their debt. And then the more attention and energy they give to paying down their debt, the more debt consumes them. And that's what they spend their whole life in, debt. Where if you focus on abundance and creating and being prosperous, then that's what you focus on. And then the debt takes care of itself. Everything else takes care of itself. You want to eat good, you want to live good, you want to exercise, you want to be friendly to people. And it upward spirals into you having more, you creating more, you having more value to store, more sats. And you want to get into an upward spiral. That's what people should be focused on. And I think that's saving, that's Bitcoin, that's, stacking skills, stack things that people can't take from you. That's memories, that's skills, that's Bitcoin and self-custody. And that's what we should be focused on more than anything. Sorry to cut you off there, Robin.
Oh no, not at all. I just want to bring that comment up. I have a nice nugget of information, something that my fiance is even annoyed at me being so obsessed with. And I think when we first talked about it, I think we actually talked about that, but I want to really bring it up in a live stream once. It is measuring your air quality.
Oh yeah,
It's
Throwback to
literally
the first episode, pilot episode.
yeah, pilot episode. Yeah, like I think this is such a, and I was not sure if we talked about it on a live stream or just in the recording before.
Yeah.
But I think this is such an important point because I researched on that a little bit more, and there's this number like this 1,223, which means basically how many particles are there per 1 million. So like how many CO2 particles are there per 1 million? And generally speaking, I just quickly asked the robot, under around 400 to 600 or under 400 is amazing. It's like fresh outdoor air quality. 600 to 800 is like good indoor air quality. 800 to 1,000 gets like messy. Now I'm in this and like I cannot open my window because it's like super loud out there and the air gets just really bad. I started with 600. I doubled it now just by speaking. And just so people are aware, if you are in a closed room with like no air ventilation and you work there for like 1 hour, 2 hours, for me, it just gets from 600 to 1,200. And starting from 1,500, your brain doesn't get a good amount of air, and it has a similar effect in alcohol on your brain. So this is just something I wanted to share because I never realized how important the air is that we are like breathing. Obviously, I mean, if you say it aloud, it sounds stupid. And so just like buy like a cheap thing on Amazon. It costs like $40 or something like that. There are like thousands of them, and just like monitor your air because like since then we almost always have a window open because the air otherwise gets really bad, especially if it's a smaller closed room. So that's my nugget of today that I want to give to people.
Love it.
So where did people find that? Like on Amazon, you said, right?
Yeah, there are a bunch of them, and they're like I bought it on Amazon. I don't even know what brand this is. This is the Switch bot. I don't I don't know if this is the best one. It's just like makes the job. There's also Amazon basic products that you can connect with your Amazon Home and stuff like that. So there's like a bunch of different products out there that do all sorts of different metrics. I just measure the CO2 levels because I realized if I measure this one, all the other things are also bad or good. I had like a bigger one measured like 5 or 6, but actually just measuring the one with the CO2 forces you to anyways open the things and like do it. And then other than that, you just should just clean your house like every now and then it's like it gets dust off and stuff like that. So there's like 5-6 metrics that you could potentially measure. I just measure the one CO2 because it's for me the most like central one, but that's it for me. And it shocked me when I saw the statistics. And I think people also notice that if you're in a room for a long time and doesn't get nice air ventilation, you feel bad. You know, like you can, if you're aware of it, you kind of feel bad on it.
Yeah. Good share. Good share. That's really good.
I think that's somebody once said to never do business in a closed room or something because people aren't making good decisions with oxygen, lack of oxygen.
That is
so
wild.
Actually, kind of on that note, Robin, speaking of carbon and all these different things, I watched a video, one popped up on my feed the other day that said you should try to touch trees every day because of the carbon and the interaction. I guess it's similar to like grounding, I guess. But anyways, I never thought about this stuff. I don't know if I was had a couple beers or otherwise or what, but I was just absolutely dialed into this video the other night about trees, touching trees. And so it's pretty interesting science behind like how trees are formed. They basically form from the air, carbon going through the leaves and into the trunk and into a very dense state. But I just kind of assumed that they grew from the, all the matter of the earth below the earth and came up, but it's actually from the air. So something there. I'm surrounded by trees here. I don't know if you guys, I know some people watch the stream here, but I got trees everywhere here. So I tried to get outside as much as I can and touch trees and touch grass. I think it's important.
Tree hugger.
Is it actually the touch of the trees, or is it just being around the tree?
I think it's both, but specifically touching it. I wish I had the video on hand to share, but you could probably find it pretty easily. Touching trees, but yeah, tree hugger. I guess they were onto something there.
Yeah, the fear. I don't know what the name is here. This one, grounding is important. Eric Stacks actually told me this when I was in Miami. He's a lot about like grounding yourself, being on the floor, not having socks on, not having shoes on, and like actually being on the ground. That's a whole rabbit hole I haven't never touched on it, but it's a thing. Like I saw that comment and I was like, it's a thing.
It is. It definitely is. Grounding, red light, little red light therapy. So good. Got to get into it. Really quick. I saw someone throw up the Vegas. Unless I'm not going, unless I'm asked to speak, then I will go probably. I know Robin, I believe you are going, right? Speaking there. And then Jor, are you going?
I don't know yet. I'm still up in the air, but probably not.
Cool. I just wanted to throw that out there because I just saw that comment a couple minutes ago or a minute or two ago. So
I might be going to Prague though, Robin. So I'd see you there.
You're in Prague. I love that.
That was a great smile.
That's a fucking awesome. If you're in Prague, awesome. I have a couple of people in Vienna before Prague, because Vienna is very close. It's just like one train ride for like 3 or 4 hours away from Prague. So instead of flying to Prague, you could just fly to Vienna like 2 days earlier, and we could hang out in Vienna. I think you're also a golfer. Are you a golfer?
I am, yeah.
And Daniel, my colleague at Microseed, he's a huge golfer. Like he loves to golf and all of that. He kind of like pushed me into it. And I'm trying my best to like hit the ball and stuff. Like I'm very horrible at it, but I'm trying my best to hit the ball. I want to get better, but it takes time, and my time goes currently into podcasting and speaking Bitcoin, I guess. But yeah, if you're up to it, let's meet there.
I like it. I mean, that's just before we go here, because I like this topic, and it's had a pretty profound impact on my life. Just Brandon mentioned red light there, but just going outside, and there's actually a guy named Daniel from the Visionaries community who got me onto this, but it's from Jack Kruse. He kind of talks about the same stuff, but going outside every morning and watching the sunrise and the impact that has on your life. I notice it now. Like I never did this before, but I started doing it, and for the last couple of weeks here, it's been pretty gloomy. Like you saw the video there. Haven't had much sun, and I can feel it. I can definitely feel it. And he swears by this. He swears that he basically started wearing glasses when he was age 4, and he's been for the last 5 years or something. He's been going outside every morning to watch the sunrise, and he doesn't wear glasses anymore. He's convinced that has actually healed his eyes. And reversed his vision. You know how you get older, your eyes are supposed to get worse, especially if you're looking at screens all day. But he doesn't wear glasses anymore, and he's convinced it's because of red light and getting up with the sun and watching the sunrise.
It's amazing.
I have another story. Old school colleague. I went to the IT school, and he went with me into this IT school. And afterwards, he said like, F that IT thing. I want to be a train rider. Like he's literally now operating a huge train. And after doing that for a couple of years, his vision got better. So he still needs glasses, but like his vision got tremendously better, and he has different glasses now. Because before he looked always at the screen all day long, and now he looks very far in the thing with the train, and he always is like surrounded by like amazing nature in the train, but in the amazing nature, and he looks around, and it literally fixed his vision. And I'm like, sometimes I think we just need to go out and touch some grass and like look in the trees, look in the mountains, look in the things, and this will heal so many of our problems. But we are like glued to the screen, and I myself, like I'm glued to the screen like 10 hours a day or something like that. It's crazy, and it's not good for us.
Well, you look at all the famous, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs has been, Hal Finney. There's somebody I just saw the other day, Andreas Antonopoulos. He stopped doing live streams because his health is poor, and he's not that old. Like I'm thinking he's maybe 45, 50, maybe
45. Yeah. Damn.
but these are guys who stare at screen like coders and cypherpunks. Is they stare at the blue screen all day, and it has a very negative impact on their health. And sitting too, I mean, doesn't help. But it's a must. I think Brandon mentioned it earlier, but or whoever it was, we were talking about ramen noodles. But it's we got to look after ourselves here, because if we don't have our health, we don't have anything, and life's pretty unexpected. So I think we need to shine more light on this kind of stuff, I think.
I have one more small hack from someone that is a lot on desks. I'll try to bring it up. Like this kind of thing. It's such a small thing. It's a standing mat. I'm standing the whole day. Like I'm never I started standing a little bit.
What is that?
And it's so much. If you start standing on a normal floor, at least for me and like a lot of other people also reported on that. I even had a discussion on X with Jeff Walton on that from True North, and he also started standing. If you just stand on the like normal hardwood floor, your feet get hurt a lot after some time. Like I couldn't stand longer for 1.5 or 2 hours. Now sometimes I'm just standing at my desk, I have like 3 podcasts in a row for 6 hours. It doesn't. It's 100% good now. And so having the standing mat is a small nugget that's super easy to get. And I never sit down now. Like I literally, like all my work, all my podcasting, I do standing upright.
What does that thing do though? Like what's the science there?
That I don't know. Like I literally don't know. But what I think it's literally it was I was like I made a tweet saying like I'm trying standing at my desk now for all the things I'm doing, and Jeff Walton replied, "Buy yourself a standing mat." And I was like, just get an arm Amazon and just bought one and just tested it out. And before it was not possible for me to stand like more than 1 or 1.5 hours. And now I'm just standing there for a very long time. It's basically a mat that is a little soft, and there are different ones where you can rub with your feet. And I like to go on the edges sometimes and just play with it a little bit here and there. And it's probably just good for you to like keep your feet moving and on some like thing. I haven't tried the treadmill though. There's people that have this like small treadmill that you can put it like 1 kilometer per hour, and you just like slowly walk on your desk, which is like the perfect analogy to like the how's it called, the rabbit race, but like with the other one.
The motion.
Yeah, a hamsterrad. It's called.
Yeah.
Hamster wheel?
Hamster wheel, yeah. The hamster wheel, I think it's called like that, yeah. And so, yeah, getting something like that was like a game changer for me. But yeah, enough nuggets for today, man. We've stretched it to 2 hours with nuggets now.
We got to save some nuggets. We got to save some nuggets here, boys.
Can't give them all away.
But somebody in the chat said also, what does it say? Got to be selective with the content you digest. I fully subscribe to that. I think people really underestimate the power of, you become what you think about. You become your environment, right? So if it's the same thing, if you're surrounded by blue light, if you're sitting all day, if you're watching people argue, if you're arguing on X, that you become that energy force. And so you really need to pay attention to, like, be a very good guardian of what you bring into your life. It's not just people. I mean, especially since we live so much online now, what you're watching, what you're listening to, obviously what you're eating, what you're drinking, but it's all, you become your whole environment. So you really got to curate that. And I suck at it, but I'm trying to get better at it at least.
Conscience of it. 100%.
That's
Great
awesome.
stuff, boys. I got it right.
And thank you so much, Brandon, Joe, and I'll see you guys next week at the same time.
Ready
Yes,
to
sir.
rock and
We'll be
roll.
back.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Brandon.
Chat,
Thanks, Robin.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
See you, boys.